guys? It is your host and league commissioner Trent, and I'm back with a very special episode. We got some Thanksgiving awards to give out, so stick around for that, and let's get right into it. Let's start off with some playoff scenarios. As you see on your screen here, playoff scenarios. Me and James, all we have to do is win this week, and we pretty much clinch a bye week heading into the playoffs. Now, if you look down below, Brian, Brendan, and Greg, they can clinch a playoff spot with a win and a Daniel and Noah loss. There's other factors that go into it too, but I mean, you're pretty much. I mean, if they win, they're pretty. If Brian wins, he's pretty much in. Just because he has such a huge lead on points than the other teams with 6 wins. Um, so it'll be pretty hard for a team to overtake him if they are tied. And then when you talk about Brendan and Greg, you have Daniel and Noah right behind, or they're actually leading both Brendan and Greg in points. So, I mean, if a tie occurs there, things could really shake up the playoff seeding. And then you have Levi, who is eliminated with a loss pretty much. Once again, other factors go into it. And then same thing with Dakota, eliminated with a loss. Point factors go into it, but it's really hard to overcome point deficits in fantasy football, especially when you're down by like 100 or more. So, and then Andrew, I mean, he's technically still in it with 2 games left, but just there's like a 200, 300 margin in points, so he's going to have to really show up these last 2 weeks if he even wants a chance. I mean, he's pretty much done for, but you never know. Miracles happen, so we'll just have to wait and see. Now it is time to get into your bums of the week. In at number 3, we have Jamison Crowder putting up 2.6 points. Only 1 catch for him in a pretty decent matchup against the LA Chargers. Greg absolutely got smacked anyways, so I don't think it would have been a major help if he went off, but 2.6 points does not get the job done, whether it's a blowout or a victory. I mean, these points add up when you look at the standings and you have tiebreakers, so Jamison Crowder definitely did not help Greg this last week. Coming in at number 2, we have Jared Cook with 1.6 fantasy points. Pretty good matchup for Jared Cook this last week. I mean, he only hauled in 1 catch for 6 yards. I mean, that was pretty much a given with Taysom Hill running the show now for the next couple of weeks. He's a pretty selfish player, quote unquote, and he likes to take the ball and run with it if nothing's there. I mean, Michael Thomas had a pretty good game, but not Jared Cook. And just like number 3 spot, Andrew got wrecked. So, I mean, the 1.6 points doesn't matter, but he just hasn't had any luck with his team going off so far this season. So, once again, another disappointing week for Andrew. Coming in at the number 1 spot, we have Hayden Hurst with a donut. I mean, that was a tough matchup either way, but a donut is a donut. I honestly, I think he actually had him in the end zone one time, and I think it was either pass interference or it was an incomplete pass. I'm not sure, but Hayden Hurst, regardless, ended up with the donut. In a game where Levi definitely could have used the points. I mean, he only lost by 20, which this last week was pretty close compared to some of the games that were going on. So, Hayden Hurst is your top bum of the week. It is time for your top 3 studs of the week here for week 11. At number 3, we have Adam Thielen. 32.3 points. I mean, the dude had 8 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And one of those touchdowns was probably one of the best catches of the season by far. CeeDee Lamb also had a great catch in that game, but Thielen's was pretty amazing. Noah did take the loss this last week, but Adam Thielen's performance does not go unrecognized, and he earned his spot on the number 3 stud of the week. Coming in at number 2, Deshaun Watson with 31.36 points, 344 yards and 3 total touchdowns. Absolutely cooked up that New England defense in a game where Brendan did need to win. Deshaun Watson absolutely tore them up. He even had 36 rushing yards to go along with it, which isn't bad. I mean, he's not that much of a scrambler as, Lamar Jackson is. So, I mean, you just take those points whenever you can get them. And Brendan needed them this last week, and Deshaun Watson provided them. In at the number one spot on your top three studs of the week, we have Keenan Allen with 34.5 points. The dude had 16 catches for 145 yards and one touchdown. I mean, obviously Justin Herbert's favorite target. Keenan Allen absolutely helped James get the dominating victory over Brian, who was also trying to fight for this bye week. Brian has a pretty solid team, and Keenan Allen pretty much just shut down Brian's whole team. James is just on fire this year, and it's going to be scary going into the playoffs. So we'll see if Keenan Allen can keep it up and keep helping James to finish off the season strong. Now, for your week 12 power rankings. Let's get right into it. At number 10, we have Andrew. I honestly don't know what to say here. I mean, Andrew's season is pretty much over. There's like a 0.0004% chance at playoffs at this point. Very specific number. Things just did not go his way this year. I mean, he's last in points for. He's pretty much has the most points allowed. So, I mean, his schedule hasn't really given him any courtesies in terms of that. So, Andrew, you just got to keep fighting. Try and ruin other people's playoff hopes if you can. That's the best thing you can do at this point. I mean, when you're pretty much out of it. But there's nothing you could have done. I mean, this season was pretty much out of your control. Besides the draft, but nobody ever wins at the draft. It's all trades and free agent pickups after that. That Barkley injury pretty much cost Andrew his season? I don't think so, because most of his losses are pretty much blowouts, and I mean, you're talking like 40 points, and Barkley's not going to get that for you every game. I mean, it could have helped, but who knows? We'll have to see how Andrew finishes off this season and if he can finish it off strong. At number 9, we have Dakota. Dakota is pretty much on the outside looking in. He needs a lot of luck to get a playoff spot. I mean, it's not looking too good for him right now, but you never know what can happen. He has a big matchup against Daniel this week, who he's only one game behind. So, I mean, if he can get the win this week, who knows? That opens the door for many possibilities. His team looked pretty decent last week compared to other weeks. Clyde Edwards-Helaire for him pretty much. I think that was Clyde's biggest game of the season. So, 20.7, and he has a 20.9 in there too. So, Clyde Edwards-Helaire did pretty good for Dakota this last week. We'll see if Dakota can keep it up and keep his playoff hopes alive this week. Coming in at the number 7 spot, we have Noah. And Noah has been bouncing around back and forth throughout these rankings this season. Pretty interesting to watch if you ask me. He's got a big game as well coming up. I mean, he needs to win this game so he can take his playoff chances into next week. If he loses, gets a little bit slim for him. And but I'm not a rapper. And he might be missing Thielen this week, I believe, due to COVID protocols. But other than that, I mean, he doesn't really need Thielen, if you ask me. I mean, Claypool has been a pretty solid replacement from earlier in the season when he was just producing when Deontay Johnson was out. Now it looks like Claypool is getting much bigger usage every single week. So, I mean, his team should be fine. He should be getting Eckler back. That's a big news right there for Noah. If I don't think Eckler plays this week, but if he can get him back next week for possibly one last shot at a playoff opportunity, I think that'll be big for Noah. But there is a possibility Eckler does play this week, but I'd say it's about 70-30% shot at Eckler playing. In favor of him not playing 70-30. And as I'm looking at his roster, it says Adam Thielen has already been ruled out. I think that's what it said for Stafford when he was going through the COVID protocols too. But he ended up playing. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. If Thielen goes, I think he plays him. But then again, he doesn't need to. So we'll see if Noah can grab the win this week and take the last playoff stand going into next week. In at the number 6 spot, we have Brendan. And Brendan's in a little bit of a tough spot right now. I mean, he's pretty much in the middle of the pack in the playoff race, separated by one game. And the two teams that are fighting are, I mean, Daniel is 6th right now, Noah's 7th, and they both have more points than Brendan. So, I mean, wins are pretty much going to get Brendan into the playoffs. And if he can beat me this week, his playoff path will become a little bit easier. He'd still last in points allowed. And even with his lucky schedule, he's only had 6 wins on the season. So, I mean, it's a little bit of both his schedule and his team. He's gotten pretty lucky, I'd say. But he's made the playoffs 4 straight years. 3 of those years, he got second place. And this last season, he wasn't able to pull the Buffalo Bills strategy of losing 4 straight championship games. But if it'll be weird if Brendan doesn't make playoffs, considering the fact that he's so consistent. And that's what makes a good fantasy owner. All you need is a shot. All you need to do is just get in, and anything can happen from there. So we'll have to see if Brendan can make his path a little bit easier with a win this week. Coming in at the number 5 spot, we have a team who is trying to get back into the playoffs to defend his title. We have Daniel. The comeback is real, folks. This is a team that started 0-4, and I believe he started 2-5, 2-4 last season. Came back, won the championship, and now he is doing it again this season. Currently the number 6 seed. So it'll be interesting to watch Daniel's journey play out, and if he can finish the season strong and nab another playoff spot. 0-4 to playoffs is pretty good. He's got a pretty solid team. I mean, his wide receiving core is pretty good. He should get Allen Robinson back this week. Only thing is Joe Mixon did get placed on IR. I thought he would be back already, but I guess it's more serious than we thought. So, I mean, if he can make it to the second round of the playoffs, if my timeline is correct, he should be getting Mixon back by then, which will be dangerous because he has Dalvin Cook, who's also been tearing it up. But yeah, man, if Daniel can keep it up, I mean, if he wins out, he pretty much has a playoff spot as a 6th seed. I mean, if he wins out, anything can happen. He can probably get a higher seeding than that. But then again, it doesn't really matter who you're playing. At that point, if you don't have a bye, then you're just hoping to be in it. So we'll see if Daniel can continue his comeback and nab one of the playoff spots. In at the number 4 spot, we have Greg, who is also in a must-win game this week. Michael Thomas finally got going for Greg. Taysom Hill looked like he was targeting him a bunch. 19.4 points for Michael Thomas. Obviously his highest of the season. He hasn't had Thomas all season. Running backs not do too good for Greg last week. I think they could do a little bit better. And they're going to need to do a little bit better if Greg wants to hold on to the playoff spot that he has now. I don't think he's made the playoffs in a couple of years. So if Kyler Murray can lead him to the playoffs, anything can happen. His wide receiving core is good. Hawkinson is a solid tight end. He is currently ranked number 4. Only thing that worries me about Greg is that if one of his starters get injured, I think his bench won't be able to fill in that role that he'd be missing. And that would be a huge part in if he either makes playoffs or gets eliminated. So he just has to hope for no injuries because his bench will not replace the production that his starters are giving him, and they could eventually cost him a game or two. So we'll have to see if Greg can hold on to his playoff spot. Definitely a must-win for him this week. In at the number 3 spot, this team got absolutely smacked by James last week. We have Brian. He definitely needs a win with teams chasing him. If he loses out, and teams win out, certain teams win out. I haven't fully looked at the schedule to understand it. I'm on this week. So, but yeah, no, he pretty much needs to win this week with so many teams chasing him. And I mean, you got three teams tied with, or two other teams tied with him, and two teams one game back. So I mean, if he loses out, anything could happen. I mean, this is pretty much a playoff roster. So if he misses playoffs, it'll be really surprising. And Kamara's value, I mean, is not the same with Taysom Hill. I mean, we saw it. Drew Brees was giving him checkdowns and stuff. Just not the same thing that's happening with Taysom Hill as the quarterback. I mean, you look, he had 0 catches against Atlanta, one of the worst defenses in the league. Um, that production's got to be better. Brian Kamara is someone that Brian really leans on. Him and Adams mostly. And then, I mean, pretty much everyone else is pretty much a toss up. Jefferson has some good games. McKissick's been pretty solid for him. And then Brady's just been inconsistent. He'll have a couple good weeks in a row and then just drop off out of nowhere. So it'll be interesting to see if Brian wins this week. He should pretty much get the spot just due to having like 200 points over the next highest. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if Brian can hang on and hold on to that playoff spot. In at the number 2 spot, we have the team that absolutely decimated Brian. We have James. Really solid last week for James. Got pretty much production pretty much from everybody this last week except for the Ravens defense, letting him down 2 weeks in a row. James might be moving on from them, but who knows? And situation with James is he got a bye week if he wins this game, so it'll be close. It'll be close. We'll see if James can hold on to a bye. You really need that bye, man. You definitely don't want to get first rounded, and it'll be tough to try and win 3 games. I'd rather win 2. So James should get the bye. He leads the league in points, so even if he ties with someone, he's pretty much got one of these 2 bye spots wrapped up. Coming in at the number 1 spot, we have me. Currently on a 3-game win streak right now, including a victory over James in that. And just like James, if I win this week, I got a bye week. Really hoping for that. So we'll see. Me and Brian are pretty much head-to-head in points right now. So if I lose out and Brian ends up winning out, he can nab one of those spots if he ends up passing me in points. So just trying to get the win this week and secure that bye spot. And then we'll see what happens from there. And now it is time for your Week 12 game of the week. We got number 4 Greg versus number 7 Noah. Big playoff implications. This should be a good one to watch. Some key matchups we're going to be looking for: Michael Thomas versus Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf versus DeAndre Hopkins, and TJ Hawkinson versus Mark Andrews. I believe the tight end battle is what's going to determine this, especially since Noah looks like he's going with Stafford and Greg has his tight end. So it'll be interesting with, I know Galladay's out. I'm pretty sure Amendola might be out again this week. So the weapons for Stafford are a little bit limited, which should give Hawkinson an increase in targets. So we'll have to see. It should be a fun matchup, and playoffs are definitely on the line with this matchup right here, which is why it is your game of the week. Now it is time for your special Thanksgiving awards. Now, I stole this idea from the fantasy footballers, what they've done the last couple of years with Thanksgiving awards. I think they did a Halloween one this last month. So I decided to do it because I thought it would be fun. So let's get into your Gobble Gobble Thanksgiving Day awards. Sweet Potato Casserole Award. Defined as heavy, hearty, and delicious for those first few bites, but you can only have so much before it makes you vomit all over the floor and thus completely ruin Thanksgiving and your family calls you a has-been. I decided to give this award to James Conner. Pretty solid first couple of weeks, and since then he has pretty much fallen off with the volume. He's not getting the goal line opportunities, which is what Brendan needs. But he absolutely tore it up at the beginning of the season, and now it's just like, I don't even want to start you in my lineup, man. Next award is the Buttery Mashed Potatoes Award. A lumpy, buttery glob of mashed potatoes is what everyone needs to add body to their plate. It's as dependable as they get, and we all know butter makes everything better. And the winner of that award goes to Travis Kelce, probably the most dependable fantasy player you can have. Especially at the tight end position. There's such a big gap between him and the next guy, and he's definitely the most dependable fantasy player this season, especially for James. He's been killing it. Burned Dinner Rolls Award. Gosh, man, you put in so much time and effort in preparing the meal, but unexpectedly the rolls were burned. Disappointment, and sometimes you just have to scrape the carbon shavings off and eat it in sadness. The winner of this award goes to Le'Veon Bell, another award for one of James's players. I'm pretty sure he was excited when Le'Veon Bell signed with the Chiefs, but it just hasn't been there, and they're not using him. And he's pretty much just got to sit him on his bench and eat that roster spot in sadness. This award is the My Aunt Stuffing Award. Classic, dependable, and gets the job done every time. This award goes to Devontae Adams, who is just so consistent and absolutely carrying Brian's team. I think some wins Brian wouldn't have without Devontae Adams, and it's absolutely insane how dependable he is, and he pretty much does. He gets the job done every time. You know Aaron Rodgers is looking for him, so definitely Devontae Adams is comparable to My Aunt Stuffing. Now it is the Jack in the Box Award. That random dish somebody brought because, well, they're convinced Thanksgiving food is trash and outdated. Time to stop with the old way of thinking. Open up your eyes and realize this could be the best thing ever. The Jack in the Box Award goes to Keenan Allen. Taken in the 5th round by Dakota, traded to James. 5th round for Keenan Allen, and he's been absolutely beastly, especially with Justin Herbert slinging the rock to him. 5th round pick, tearing it up. I believe he's the top 5 receiver right now. So that's definitely some good value right there for James, who's absolutely loving him on his team. Next we have the Overdone Turducken Award, a fat overdone duck cooked in a chicken stuffed in a turkey. You paid a ton of money for this fat blend of bird, but you just can't eat it. Instead, you just have to look at it and wonder what could have been. This award goes to my very own Lamar Jackson. I did pay a high price for him, 3rd round. I usually never go quarterback that early. But I thought I had a good feeling, but it turns out, nope, it was just an overdone turducken. And now I have to pay the price. I just got to watch him on my bench. Herbert is absolutely killing it for me, so I don't know if I'm going to use Lamar Jackson again. So definitely deserving of this award. Next award we have is Ham, a rival to the classic turkey. Ham is an alternative for those who want to go rogue and be different. Pretty much the runner-up of the main award, which is turkey with gravy. We have Ham, and that winner is Alvin Kamara. Absolutely beastly performance by him this season, aside from this last week. Of course, with Taysom Hill as the starting quarterback, I think he only dropped like 10 points. But Alvin Kamara is your Ham Award winner. That leads us to our final award of the evening, the Classic Turkey with Gravy, the showstopper and MVP of Thanksgiving Day. You cannot have Thanksgiving without turkey unless you are vegan or some shit, okay? And that award goes to Arizona's own Kyler Murray. It was close between him and Kamara, but I had to give the nod to Murray. Absolutely carrying Greg. Currently the quarterback 1 on the season. So it's pretty fun to watch him play. I can't lie, and he's most deserving of this award. Guys, that is going to do it for your rankings. Hope you guys enjoyed. Happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you guys next week.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve slowly.